Alright, welcome to the second ever episode of the Wheelcast, the podcast of variable length where no one really knows how long it's gonna take.
Or what's gonna come up.
Yeah, anything could happen. Alright, I'm your host, Greg Orange, Magic Aficionado. And I'm with,
Arthur Reynolds.
Daniel Weiser, Magic Aficionado.
As you can tell, I am not a magic aficionado.
Alright, so...
There can only be so many
There
aficionados.
can only be so
in the
many
world.
aficionados. There's a limit. So I guess let's just go through the topics then. So the first and foremost topic is, as always, end the podcast. You can't end it until you hit it, and once you hit it, you have to end it. Topic number 2 is just crack a pack. We've got a pack of M19 here, and we'll just crack it and see what's in there. Pocket there. Number 3, M19 Standard. 4, starter deck metagame. 5, legacy bannings. 6, modern. 7, mechanics. 8, Teferi. 9, Nicol Bolas. 10, Zombo Combos. 11, Nexus of Fate. 12, Crucible of Worlds. 13, Owling Mine. 14, Pai Gow Magic. 15, Taco Bell 2. 16, Wiki Wheel. 17, Galaxy Quest. 18, Pro Wrestling. 19, N64 games. And 20, Ricklantis Mixup. Alright, let's just get into it here. Time to spin the wheel. Arthur, do you want to do the honors on the first wheel spin?
Sure thing.
Ooh, number 11. Nexus of Fate.
Alright, so Nexus of Fate is the Buy a Box promo.
Oh yeah, the time walk. Right.
Yeah, it's 5 blue, instant. Take an extra turn after this one. If it enters your graveyard, you put it back in your deck.
Yeah.
So
Do we know if it shuffles in or puts on the bottom or whatever? I mean, it doesn't make a huge difference,
Yeah,
but...
it goes to the bottom. But, yeah, so I guess if you are out of cards in library, or you can just keep looping it or whatnot, so that's kind of...
just take infinite turns.
The fact that it goes infinite on its own with an empty deck is, like, that's a pretty powerful effect.
It's definitely a card that could be played under certain circumstances. I don't know if it's a particularly powerful or good card, but it's definitely unique. And like the fact that it's a BioBox promo is kind of could end up being problematic if like it becomes like, I don't know, popular in some way. But I guess they could always reprint it later down the road, so it's not the end of the world necessarily. But
Yeah, if it is played in Standard, do you think it's the type of card that you would play 4 of? Because I think that also plays some degree into that.
I don't think you'd play 4 of it unless there was like a really weird deck.
I could see playing 4. I mean, this card's like... If you're able to set up the infinite combo with it, like that's a very powerful thing to be doing, especially in a Standard format. So for a payoff this big, if you're able to actually set that up, I could imagine playing 4 copies of this card.
Yeah, it looks like it does shuffle in. I checked, so...
It is good against the Nicol Bolas Ultimate. Exile all but the last card. And
Alright, I'll take
library.
Infinite turns.
Why, thank you.
That would be nice.
I assume there's like a flavor reason for that, but I don't know what it is because I'm not a flavor aficionado.
Yeah, I assume it's just because they don't want the Ultimate to immediately win the game, and they probably want it to combo with Nexus of Fate.
Yeah, do you get to choose which player?
Wait, is it target player? Yeah.
I have no idea.
You just get rid of your own deck?
myself.
Take Infinite
Time to
turns.
go off.
This deck sounds sweet. I hope it is. I hope you can target yourself with Nicol Bolas. Well, I don't have a Nicol Bolas in front of me right now, but we may just have the new brew. Although,
Well, we will once we crack this pack.
yeah, we will have a Nicol Bolas once we crack the pack. But
If we crack the pack.
although,
First we have to get there, that's true.
although obviously, like strategically speaking, if you're at the point where you're ultimating Nicol Bolas, you have certainly you've almost certainly won the game already.
It's way more noodly to just take infinite turns than to get rid of their deck.
Noodly that way, so
They could still win if you don't take infinite turns.
Alright, so we're passing the 3-minute mark on this topic. So what we're going to do this time is just mention what we've gone across 3 minutes, but not necessarily cut it off right away. But it sounds like we're probably done with this topic anyway. So time to spin the wheel again.
It does definitely seem like like the type of thing that could be, we could be looking back on this in 6 months and being like, man, that was a terrible decision. Why did they ever make it a buy box promo? But it's a little too early to tell, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not it's whatever.
Spin the wheel. How it develops. Yeah, spin the wheel.
7.
Number 7. Oh, by the way, what are we replacing that one with?
Oh yeah, I forgot to see. We're replacing Nexus of Fate with Chode names. So if we roll 11
classic.
again, we will be talking about Chode names.
So what's number 7? I believe that's a Magic related topic.
Number 7 is mechanics.
Alright.
What's your favorite mechanic?
Flashback is pretty reasonable. I like buyback a lot.
Buyback is nice.
Yeah.
I feel like buyback creates some unfun play patterns sometimes, but it's also a lot of fun sometimes. So,
I mean, I don't like buyback cards when they're like pushed too much. Like a perfect example of a buyback card I really like is like Spellburst.
Yeah.
Where it's like in the late game it's really sweet, but it doesn't really do much in like the first like 6 turns of the game.
Yeah, it's really hard to get to the point where it's actually doing something that feels unfair.
Not nearly as ridiculous as Capsize or.
Yeah, I mean that's where I was headed. I was gonna say stuff about Capsize.
Capsize is probably a bit pushed. What sort of mechanics are you a fan of?
I've always been a big fan of Storm. I love playing that deck, drawing some cards and storming off on people.
Ooh.
Yeah. Should we just keep listing broken mechanics that we like? I'm personally a fan of Delve.
Cascade.
It makes my cards cost less, which is fun because then I get to play them more often.
I like that my cards cost less. I also like Phyrexian mana because
not
that's like
bad.
getting banned in Modern, Legacy, and Vintage sometimes.
What I like
Well,
about
it's got
Vintage, I
I believe Probe is restricted.
Probe's restricted.
Okay, that sounds right. I'm not a
It's
Vintage
banned and everything else, so it's probably restricted, right? It's a very bad.
What I like about Storm is they like it was progressing. They kept printing more and more cards, and then eventually they were like, we need to print a card that counters Storm spells, so we'll print a counter spell with Storm. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
You've got Fluster
Nice
Storm.
decision, I like that.
I mean, Fluster Storm is probably like one of the most reasonable Storm spells that they've actually printed.
Because it can't actually win.
I mean, the most it can ever do is just counter a spell. It doesn't matter like how much Storm there is, really.
I like
Fluster
some
Storm's really sweet, though. I mean, it does a lot
Fluster
of
Storm
cool
is
things.
sweet.
I like when you get to counter 2 things with one Fluster Storm.
I like Crow Storm as well, flavor-wise. That's not a It's nice flavor-wise, but
It's nice.
it's definitely like it would definitely be problematic to actually print in a real set. But
I also like I like some of like the less good Storm spells, like they still self play, but like Wing Shards and stuff.
Yeah, Wing Shards is pretty nice. They play a Haste guy and they're like, put all your guys in the
Temporal Fissure, bounce a bunch of permanents.
That one's banned in Pauper.
Yeah, Temporal Fissure was pretty broken in Pauper, as it turns out. Bouncing all of your opponent's permanents
After
is
like
pretty good.
gushing and stuff.
Especially when you get to do it repeatedly with Mnemonic Wall.
Yeah, you bounce
the
your
wall,
Hypnotic Wall, bounce all of your opponent's permanents, repeat. Alright, so we're crossing over the 3-minute mark. Is there anything else we have to say about mechanics, automobile or otherwise?
I feel like we could talk about this topic for a while.
Mechanics are nice.
Mechanics are nice.
What's like a weak mechanic that you like? Because so far we've talked about like
Phasing.
Phasing? Phasing is
I hate that one. It's way too complicated.
It's not a particularly good mechanic, but it is kind of funny.
One poorly received mechanic that I kind of like is Suspend.
Yeah.
I like Suspend a lot.
Suspend is kind of sweet, although apparently like people do not like it in general just because it's kind of weird and I don't know. But
yeah,
delayed gratification is not what people are in the market for a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think that like the Wizards has gone through phases where they are better or worse at making mechanics, right? Like, initially they were like, oh, banding. This is a pretty straightforward
Well, banding will be fine.
Yeah, banding seems like it's definitely some top-down design.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we didn't talk about hexproof, I guess.
Yeah, screw that one. That one doesn't deserve to be talked about.
Yeah, alright.
It's
Oh,
an abomination.
so
I like Haunt personally.
Haunt
Even though
is
it's
nice.
very counter.
yeah, Haunt just seems it's
counterintuitive.
definitely an awkward one.
It's a little more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of it, and I like how it plays.
Yeah, it's one of those mechanics where I always forget exactly what it does.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated than it needs to be.
Alright, so...
Oh,
So,
Rebound is nice.
yeah. Rebound
Alright,
is
alright,
nice.
we have to cut it off and
If
move
we-
on.
There's a bunch of them.
Alright, if we talk about, if we roll a 7 again, then we'll be talking about tower games. So,
Nice.
time to spin the wheel. 15.
No, that's not a Magic topic.
Ooh, Taco Bell 2.
What happened to Taco Bell 1?
We talked about it last time. And we
That's
talked about
true.
Taco Bell 3 as well, but we never talked about Taco Bell 2.
Yeah, that's true.
That's very reasonable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I suppose when your topics are randomly determined, sometimes you'll go out of sequence.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Taco Bell. I had some Taco Bell just yesterday.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
I've gone like about a week probably without Taco Bell, which is kind of
So
been
you're
tough.
due.
Yeah.
You
It's
gotta
also
get that
been a little
fixed.
while
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been in the middle of a Taco Bell dry spell.
yeah. What can you do?
When I went to Taco Bell yesterday, I was in the drive-thru and I drove up, and the girl at the window was like, "Hi, welcome to Taco." And she like started choking, and she was like, "Am I okay? Are you okay? What's going on?" Right? And so I'm like, "Take your time, whatever." And so we just like kind of talked about that for like 3 minutes, and then I ordered.
Yeah, I've definitely had some like extended conversations at like the Taco Bell drive-thru when like no one else is going to the Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Like the drive-thru guy's like, "Hey, nice seeing you again," and then like goes into like this conversation with me,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Well, I guess I don't have anything else going on, so
Yeah, you're not in a rush.
yeah, that's just part of the Taco Bell experience, you know.
I suppose it is.
That's what it's all about. We just don't advertise that part.
I mean, it was
As much as
varies
they should.
by store to store.
Yeah.
Have we made any progress on getting a Taco Bell sponsor?
You know, I haven't looked into it just yet, but I can assume that we're on our way.
It's probably
at
gonna
this
happen.
point.
We
A
should.
Taco Bell sponsor would be really nice because then we could just like get some stuff from Taco Bell and like if we roll the correct thing,
Yeah,
then we
we could
eat it
just
on the
eat.
podcast and discuss.
Yeah, that would be nice. We also could like have Taco Bell giveaways to Patreons eventually.
Ooh, that would be nice.
Oh, yeah.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any specific Taco Bell items you're a fan of, or?
I'm a big fan of the cheesy bean and rice burrito.
Ooh. I'm not a huge fan of beans in general on burritos. I mean, I like them okay, but it's not my favorite topping, I guess.
Yeah. I also like their quesadillas, although they're
do
not
like
on the
their
dollar
quesadillas.
menu, so you have to weigh the EV.
You can get the mini shredded chicken quesadilla, I think it's called.
Yeah, that's got the dollars.
That was pretty
which
good.
has most of the same ingredients. I think it might be lacking one or two of them.
Yeah,
But there's not that many ingredients in the quesadilla. But.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how much do you need in your quesadillas, really?
Cheese,
Yeah.
meat.
Alright,
Maybe
so we've crossed the 3-minute mark, it looks like. So if we roll Taco Bell 2 again, or no, if we roll 15 again, we will be discussing Where's Shoes Booze? Where is Shoes Booze?
Where is Shoes Booze?
Alright,
We'll talk about it
Stay
when we
tuned
need
to
to.
find out, hopefully. Alright, time to spin the wheel. Ooh, an
8.
8 would be Teferi.
Ooh.
It's particularly noodly spell.
It's a pretty good one.
Teferi's nice.
Yeah.
This card just has excellent design, right? It's everything you want to be doing in a control deck.
Yeah, I mean, it does have all the things I wanted to have, basically. It draws cards, wins games, and answers problematic permanents sometimes.
It's definitely a powerful card.
It's definitely an enjoyable control win condition as well, because you get to just dirtle.
Yeah, my only problem with Teferi is that he wins the game almost a little too fast. He doesn't give you a lot of time to savor it.
Yeah, they usually concede too fast.
It is ideal when they make you play it out.
I sort of wish the ultimate was like... Here's what I would change. I'd make the ultimate like minus like 10 or something to give you a few extra turns to wait. And then I'd make the +1, instead of draw a card, I'd make it you may draw a card. Because sometimes you just don't want to.
Yeah, you may draw a card.
Because I hate running into situations where you like can't ultimate Teferi in time because you just don't have enough cards in your library.
Yeah,
So,
those are always annoying.
yeah, or you could just implement the mechanic you may undraw a card, which just
You may
sounds
draw
very
a card or undraw a card.
Yeah.
This sounds a little complicated, but sure.
I
Yeah,
don't.
maybe just the may draw a card part would be nice.
I suppose.
Yeah,
I
just
do
for
think
me, I
that-
don't know about in general, but I would
Yeah,
enjoy
sure.
it more.
I do think that it's kind of crazy that like they don't really print good cards for control anymore.
Yeah.
But blue-white control, I mean, I don't know about now with M19 or whatever, but before at least, blue-white control was one of the 2 decks that you could play in Standard because Teferi
Yeah.
just single-handedly carrying control.
Yeah, I mean, control card. I mean, it's not a great. It's not a great just answer spell. It's more of like a Teferi. I'd say is more of a threat than an answer in general. Like
Oh,
you can't,
definitely.
like you can play it and like put up permanents, a third from the top or whatever. But it's definitely not its best use usually.
Yeah.
I'd much rather just play it and start drawing cards and untapping lands and then make my opponent have to deal with my Teferi. And then at that point, it's not... You're like, it hardly even feels like you're playing control deck anymore, really.
You're just beating them down with those Teferi activations, basically.
Yeah. Once you resolve a Teferi, it's kind of just like gold fishing, right? You're just like, get your guy, counter your spell, draw some cards.
Like, I miss the old Elixir of Immortality win condition where...
That was pretty good.
Yeah, I really got to savor it with the Elixir of Immortality.
Yeah, Teferi goes too fast.
Yeah, they
What a
never,
shame.
they never ask you the question like, can you just show me your hand and if it's, I'll concede, you know, if you have like 2 counter spells or whatnot.
Yeah.
With Teferi, they're just like, well, yeah, Teferi's at 8, I guess I'm dead, and they just concede.
Yeah, the Elixir deck really did a good job of creating the illusion that they were still in the game.
Yeah.
Right? Even though they were wildly dead.
Yeah, they just never, because they didn't know what you had in your hand, they always thought, well, maybe there's a chance.
Maybe
And
it's
then
all lands.
I would never let them know because that's the best part of the game, you know?
Play it out.
Alright, we're definitely over the 3-minute mark on Teferi, so...
You got too much to talk about there.
Yeah. So if we roll an 8 again, we'll be talking about chess. Alright, and time to spin the wheel. 3. M19 Standard.
Alright. So obviously going into this, the red deck's probably still the deck to beat.
Yeah, I didn't really see anything in M19 that seemed particularly good against mono red. So
Yeah, I don't think too much will change.
yeah, there's a few good threats like Nicol Bolas seems kind of reasonable.
The
But-
Planeswalkers are okay. I think the green Planeswalker is actually very good.
But the green Planeswalker seems not bad.
Yeah.
Considering that, like, the green deck's already in Standard, we're boarding Crushing Canopy and stuff, this just seems like a big upgrade to Crushing Canopy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that
And
affects...
it's also potentially more main deckable, right? Because you
Yeah.
just player and find creatures. So
The effect's pretty relevant also. I mean, a lot of decks play artifacts and, flying dudes.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think there are some tools in M19 that are good for some strategies that we haven't seen in a while. Although, I mean, they have their problems. Like, Oketra's Monument, obviously, being weak to Chain Whirler is an issue, but having Mentor of the Meek is definitely a game for that deck, and if they can find a way to beat the Chain Whirler, then we could see that come back, maybe.
Yeah. Chain Whirler does really make it hard for other
Strategies.
hard for other strategies. I mean, the cards in the red deck are just so good overall, and they have quite a few options. Like, they have a fair amount of variety of threats, like with Chandra and the Phoenix and Hazaret. They have a lot of different angles they can attack from.
I don't know if you mentioned that already, but
No.
if you did, we can mention it the second time. This was so good.
Yeah, they can go big or small, so...
Is there any...
I don't know, I'm personally kind of glad that, like, I don't really enjoy when decks like Monument are one of the best decks. Just because decks like that feel very polarizing when you play against them. Like, there aren't too many decisions that you make in the game that matter. It feels like a lot of the time it's just about what deck you're playing versus their deck. Like, if you're playing a deck that goes bigger, you're going to crush them. If you're playing a deck that invalidates their tokeny strategy, you're going to crush them. But if you're playing like a deck with a bunch of spot removal, you're going to get crushed. Or you're playing a deck that can't answer the card Oketra's Monument. I don't know.
It does often depend on matchup, but I guess that's often how it goes. I mean, would you prefer...
I'm just saying, I would actually be more unhappy if the Monument deck was the best deck in the format. Just because playing that type of deck where it's super... all the matchups are super polarizing and the games don't have that much play to them. I mean, sure, there are a bunch of decisions, but at the end of the day, what matters is what deck you're playing, not how you play the games. I think that makes for less enjoyable tournaments, personally.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a Monument deck would probably lead to more interesting game decisions than Mono Red often does. At least draw it out for a little bit longer, so you'd have time to
make decisions.
To make a few choices, I guess. But I don't know. So it looks like we're above the 3-minute mark on M19 Standard. So if we roll a 3 again, we'll be talking about chess boxing. Alright, time to spin the wheel. Number 9, Nicol Bolas.
Definitely one of the best cards in the core set, I'd say.
A 4/4 flyer for 4 is a reasonable rate, and making them discard a card is a
nice
good
add-on.
Yeah, it's a good way to make sure it gets at least some value, even if it dies right away.
Yeah, I think it's a card that really uses all of its pieces to be good. Like, none of the pieces on its own look super appealing, but when you have all of them combined, it looks like a reasonable package deal.
It does
like,
have a lot of text.
The 4/4 flyer for 4 isn't super appealing. The playing a mid-rangey value guy that gets some value and makes him discard a card isn't super appealing when there are insane 4-drops like Chandra and Hazaret and that sort of thing in the format. And playing a 4-mana card that you can then spend 7 to flip into the Sweet Planeswalker isn't that appealing. But the fact that you get all of those options, the fact that you get all those things in one card, means that Nicol Bolas might actually be pretty good.
Yeah.
It's also a dragon, so can't die to Glorybringer.
Yeah, that's very relevant. It's actually
yeah.
super relevant, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also, I mean, it's just like a value creature that you have to, any creature like that with an ability on it, if you have 6 lands in play, your opponent has to worry about you drawing a land and being able to flip it. So you don't think that's a must answer threat that you don't even necessarily have to put all the mana into in order to make
the threat
it
of activation.
Yeah, it just prevents them from being able to tap out.
Is it just an activated ability? Or is it only during your turn, or can you do it at instant speed?
It's sorcery speed, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure it's 4 and Grixis, so 7 mana to flip only at sorcery speed.
Yeah,
that
it'd be kind of
sounds
nice
right.
if you could like counter removal spells by flipping it.
I think that would be too good.
Well, the Planeswalker does seem
Because
strong.
then you
so-
just get to like end step, flip, your opponent spends some mana, untap, do some stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I imagine you generally probably want to flip it when you can, because the Planeswalker side does seem pretty good.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Planeswalker side seems very hard to beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like basically like a 4/4 flyer for 4, right? That makes them discard a card, but also draws you a 7-drop Planeswalker, right? You know, because it like flips into this nice Planeswalker.
Yeah,
at least
it's
it-
not
it
quite
might,
that
but-
good.
Yeah, I mean,
because
you
if
lose
they,
the
If they
4/4,
kill the
yeah.
4/4, they also kill the 7 mana
Sure.
Planeswalker.
Yeah, but
And in order to play the 7 mana Planeswalker, you need to lose the 4/4.
but if you do kill it, you at least get your like 2-for-1 out of the deal, I suppose, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, his main downsides are like there's a lot of good 4-drops right now, and it's also Grixis mana, which is like
Bit tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little tough
tricky.
in Standard right now, yeah. It also gets Chandra really
it's
poorly.
poor against Chandra.
Gets Chandra really well. Matches up against Chandra really poorly.
Yeah, does match up poorly against Chandra. I think that's about the 3-minute mark on Nicol Bolas. So if we roll a 9 again, we will be calling Dylan. We just got Call Dylan on there, so
Alright,
time to spin the wheel.
14.
14, Pai Gow Magic.
Ooh.
Well, how does that work?
Yeah, you don't know how this one works.
No.
Alright, so you'll get. So we're not actually gonna play, but the idea is you get 2 packs, and you each open a pack, and you build 5 decks out of the pack.
Oh, yeah.
5 decks of 3 cards each.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I've played
So
this
one of the
before.
decks will have a land, and some of the cards often don't do anything in Pai Gow, like Divination, unfortunately, is just a blank because you can't draw cards in Pai Gow, but
Right. The way it works is that you're 5 decks of 3 cards each. You play a game where both players start at 5 life, and you start with all your 3 cards in your hand, and you have infinite mana on each turn, and only 5 life.
It's a good thing you can't get Nexus of Fate in a pack.
best 3
That
out of
would go
5.
into it.
Ooh, Nexus.
Yeah.
Nexus of Fate would be strong in Pai Gow. Although,
That's probably why they did it.
I don't really.
Yeah,
I
probably.
guess it depends on the rules in Pai Gow, because I don't know if you can redraw the Nexus of Fate. I guess
But
it
what
just
if you have
depends on
divination?
what you feel.
Usually I would play as like you get a draw step every turn. It's just you don't lose from having an empty library.
Sure, that makes sense.
And it's usually irrelevant that you have a draw step because there aren't any cards. There aren't many cards that like put themselves back into your deck. But
Yeah, but building the deck, there's a lot of strategy in building the decks, because one thing you can do is put all your dead cards that don't do anything into one pack,
yeah,
or
just
you
throw them away basically. Give your opponent a free win there.
or because you have to win best 3 out of 5, so you can have a
Yeah,
pack
3
that
decks out
can't
of your
win.
5 decks of 3.
Or what you can do is spread out your cards that are bad into different decks, and you have a nice balance. Like, this card's really good. Do I put another? I should put like weak cards with it, or
Yeah.
like obviously if you get like
If you get that like 5-drop dragon that like 5s them or makes them sack a guy,
yeah,
Yeah.
you can just put
that could
2
probably
bad
go
ones.
bad.
That card's pretty strong. You can put that one with a land and a dead card, basically.
Yeah, or
you
like-
put that with your land and your divination.
Or like
There's also
you can put your Banefire by itself. You know?
yeah, you can put the Banefire by itself. You can't really
Yeah.
lose with that one. But yeah, well, we're talking about the land. There's also I've seen some people play with like you play that with the token instead of the land. So you get to play with the token, and it's just whatever's on the token.
That
So
would
if
be
you got
nice.
like a 1/1 Saproling token, it would just be a 1/1 that you could put in one of your packs. Because it means that there are just less dead cards, so it makes for slightly more interesting deck building. But yeah, Pai Gow's really interesting. It makes you look for synergies a lot.
Yeah.
Like if you have a haste creature and a pump spell, you can be like, alright, I'm going to play this haste creature, attack you, and play this pump spell. You start at 5. I'll try to win easy with this one.
Yeah, that is sweet. So that's about 3 minutes on Pai Gow Magic. So if we roll a 14 again, we'll be talking about All That Chazz. So stay tuned for
All
that.
That Chazz.
All That Chazz. All right, time to spin the wheel. Oh, we got a 10. We'll be talking about Zombo Combo. All right,
Have you
Dagger.
heard about Zombo Combo yet?
I have not heard about Zombo
I
Combo.
have heard about Zombo Combo. So, Zombo Combo is a 4-card infinite Combo, currently legal in Standard. It takes a few pieces, most of which are bad, but it does win the game once you assemble them all.
My interest is piqued.
Yeah, tell me more.
So the combo starts, as all good combos do, with arcane adaptation, naming Zombie.
Ooh.
Alright.
So you have to make all your creatures into zombies.
So all your creatures are zombies.
Okay, alright.
And the next piece is
Easy enough.
Metallic Mimic, naming zombies. So all your zombies, when they come into play, get an additional +1/+1 counter on them.
I like the sound of
Okay.
this.
So all your creatures
so far.
start out bigger, which is, that's not even. I mean, that's a combo. But that doesn't go infinite. That's
This
just a
deck
combo
just
on its
sounds
own.
nice, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably just good without the combo, anyways.
Yeah, it
So-
sounds like a strong deck we've got here.
Yeah, probably. The third piece of the combo is the new Liliana Planeswalker.
Okay.
And the thing you'll be wanting to do with her is -3 to let you cast zombies out of your graveyard this turn.
Sure.
It's a key component of the combo.
Yeah.
And then the last piece is Walking Ballista.
Ooh, so you
Oh.
cast it for 0, it gets a counter, and then you just sack it to ping him for 1.
That's nice.
And that's Zombo Combo, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, at least 2 of those cards have seen play in Standard, right? So
I would argue that Metallic Mimic saw play but shouldn't have seen play. But
that's fair.
It did
still
technically
saw play.
It did technically get played.
It's a fine card, I suppose. So does the enchantment also change your graveyard
Yeah.
types to zombies?
Everything
Yes.
that's not in play.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Everything that's in play.
Yeah, right.
Everything.
Yeah,
Everything.
That's good.
They're all zombies.
Yeah, this sounds like a foolproof combo. I don't see how this could possibly go wrong.
It only
Yeah.
takes 4 different pieces.
And even if they chain whirler your mimic away, you have the minus and the art adaptation. So you can technically play 2 of the pieces from your graveyard.
Yeah, if you already have
Yeah, if you have a lot of mana, it's actually resilient to removal, because imagine that you play Liliana and you untap with her and it's like turn 6 and you go minus Liliana, cast Metallic Mimic out of my graveyard, resolves, cast Walking Ballista out of my graveyard for 0, they kill the Mimic in response, be like, alright, sure, Walking Ballista dies, put this back in my graveyard, cast this Mimic out of my graveyard again, cast Walking Ballista again.
Yeah.
Yeah, also you can do things
So-
like if you have the enchantment in play, you can just, with 6 mana, just play Liliana, play Metallic Mimic out of the bin, and then play Walking Ballista out of the bin and combo off just that easily.
That's right.
Yeah.
At the low cost of playing the new Liliana and Arc adaptation in your deck.
And Metallic Mimic.
So
And
it,
Metallic.
so it looks like we're crossing the 3-minute mark on this topic.
How do you feel about Zombo Combo? Would
Likely
you play it?
unbeatable.
Are you gonna lock it in for the Pro Tour right now?
It's definitely in the gauntlet.
Would you if you were playing Standard?
I am probably playing Standard. I'm definitely not locking in Zombo Combo, but I will say I'm not going to write it off just yet.
We'll have to see
Fair
how
enough.
the testing goes.
Yeah,
Yeah, you gotta test
we'll have
some
to
games
put it through
with the
some
Zombo
thorough
Combo.
testing, yeah. Alright, so yeah, if we roll a 10 again, we will be talking about board games. Alright, time to spin the wheel. Ooh, a 12. That topic is Crucible of Worlds.
All
This
right.
card is nice.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
nice immunity spell that
Now
just
it's
got a
in Standard.
reprint.
Yeah.
I don't know how abusable it is in Standard. It looks like there are a variety of cute things you can do with it, none of which are powerful enough to make an impact.
There's a nice 5-mana Stone Rain land.
Yeah, that's
You've
that's
also-
definitely the most fun one to do.
You've also got the deserts and
Yeah, the deserts are pretty reasonable with Crucible. I don't.
There are cycling lands.
Yeah, some
Good
got
value.
some nice value with cycling lands. You can hit some land drops with like Field of Ruin.
yeah.
I think Evolving Wilds is legal.
Yeah, it's not bad with Evolving Wilds. So I could see it seeing a little bit of like play. The main problem with Crucible Worlds and really all like reasonable artifacts in Standard right now is they have to contend with a braid. So if you want to build your deck, it's just hard to build your deck around a specific artifact when there's a lot of free answers running around for it.
Right.
I think Crucible of Worlds is not that big of an issue against a Braid because you can kind of just play Crucible of Worlds, play a land, so it gets value against a Braid, and it's, they paid 2 mana to kill your 3 mana artifact. It's like, it's not that big a deal. If you need to untap with Crucible of Worlds and play 6 times to win the game, if you're that reliant upon it, then it's probably pretty soft to a Braid, but just as a value play, I think it's actually matches up fine against a Braid.
Yeah.
Sure. We've also had this effect in Standard for like a year.
With Ramming Up Excavator?
Right. I mean, it being a creature makes it easier to not stain play, but...
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's going to make a huge impact, but...
Right. Yeah,
so...
I'm just saying.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, the Excavator has not been played a lot in Standard, I guess.
Did see
or
play
anywhere for that matter.
Stop playing that weird modern deck.
Yes, it did see it play in that modern deck. It's kind of sweet with Azusa, I guess.
It is.
You can collect your company into Azusa and Ram Excavator, and then just Stone Rain all their lands immediately or whatnot. I think my favorite thing about Crucible Worlds, and my favorite fun fact, is that it's like I'm pretty sure it was like a user design card, like a community card, and the community designed it to be good against land destruction because casual players hate land destruction. But the funny thing, what I found funny about that is that Crucible, in most of its existence, the only use it's ever had is as just Stone Rain on a stick.
Yeah.
Like Crucible
as an LD enabler.
It's just
Crucible Strip Mine. That was always
Strip Mine.
The big EDH deck. Azusa Strip Mine Crucible.
That sounds like a very strong EDH deck.
Yeah, I just enjoy that Crucible. Its actual use is the exact opposite of its intended use, which is just rare. Rare where that sort of comes into play. But
yeah, it's funny.
I guess the community in general is not super great about designing cards.
Probably not.
But in this case, I mean, I enjoy Crucible of Worlds in general, so I can't complain.
I almost top-rated a GP with Crucible of Worlds in my deck.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I did not, unfortunately.
Alright, so it looks like we've crossed the 3-minute mark on Crucible of Worlds, so time to spin the wheel.
It appears that we're getting some rain.
Alright, it is raining.
So, if there's thunder in the background,
Alright, so you've rolled an 8, and the topic is chess, and I just should probably mention that the next Crucible of Worlds the next number 12 topic will be Taco John's if we roll a 12. But we rolled an 8, so we're talking about chess now.
Alright, chess.
Chess.
Yeah, so I played in a chess league this one time.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
So, turns out in chess, there's a lot of kids that study chess and are much better than the average person. So I'm in this chess league playing against this, 8-year-old kid. And this was probably, 4 years ago. And I'm in the middle of the match. We're playing on the board that I brought. With my pieces and stuff, and
This is the string cheese story.
This is the string cheese story.
Should we tell this one on stream, on podcast?
Yeah.
Don't see why not.
All right, go for it.
Story,
it's
so
kind of a funny story, so go for it.
Yeah. So, anyways,
it's not super. Alright, go for it.
So, anyways, this kid in the middle of the match gets hungry, and as Daniel alluded to, he pulls out a piece of string cheese.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. And so he starts eating the cheese, right? But he doesn't eat it normal. He puts the whole stick of string cheese in his mouth.
Yeah, I like where this is going.
Then he removes the whole stick. Then he proceeds to kind of just suck on the stick of string cheese. And his hands are getting, they're getting cheesy and spitty. And he's touching all my pieces. And of course he's beating me because he's a kid that plays chess. And here I am, just sitting there, mortified. He finally starts eating this string cheese normally, peeling it and eating it. Now, mind you, chess games take a long time.
Sure.
So the rounds were an hour and a half. And so he gets through his string cheese finally. And we're probably midway through the game. I'm actually managed to get in a pretty decent position, and I feel like I'm up up in value. I think the coast is clear, and out of nowhere he pulls out a second piece of string cheese.
And that's when you knew you had lost.
That's when I knew I had no hope.
Do you think it could apply like the string cheese strategy to like a Magic tournament?
I tried it the next week, and it just didn't have the same effect.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But yeah, no, that was a good one. So he ended up crushing me, but it's gonna stick with me. That string cheese incident.
All right, so we've talked about chess for about 3 minutes
My
now.
chess mostly string cheese.
I feel like it was very
That's the
insightful.
spirit of the Wheel podcast. Is you never know what you're getting, even when you know what the topic is.
You never really know what you're gonna get, but I feel like you should leave happy no matter what. All right, so if we roll an 8 again, just be happy with what you get. It's basically
don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Don't let the gift podcast in the mouth.
I suppose.
Yeah, but anyway, if we roll an 8 again, we will be talking about Shoney's. Yeah, so time to spin the wheel. Ooh, a 20, a big number. Ooh, we'll be talking about the Ricklantis Mixup.
Oh, this is a nice mix-up.
Yeah, this is a nice mix-up. So, does anyone want to explain what the Ricklantis Mixup is?
You can field this one, Greg.
Why don't you take it?
You're a Ricklantis aficionado.
Alright, well, so the Ricklantis Mix-Up is a very noodly episode of Rick and Morty from Season 3. Which is a TV show, an animated TV show on Adult Swim, and basically it's very hard to explain, I guess, but it takes place in like an interdimensional citadel where all of the inhabitants of like the city are one of two people, either Rick or Morty.
Basically,
And
they
so-
all come from different universes. They're all slightly different, but they're all different takes on the same people.
And it's sort of like a parody or like retelling, I guess, of a few different like movies, I guess, like Stand By Me and Training Day. And I don't really know if the other one's a movie, like if that one refers to one.
Oh, there's the like the Willy Wonka.
Yeah, it's kind of like Willy
storyline.
Wonka.
And there's
I guess there's also the political storyline, which is kind of its own thing.
Yeah, I heard that one compared to the Manchurian Candidate ones.
Okay, I've never actually seen the Manchurian Candidate, but
It's a good movie.
Needless to say that it's like a 22-minute episode, but there's, as we can see, it's very, very dense with like details and plot.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
So it's the first and only episode of television where I've watched it and then immediately ran it back and watched it a second time.
Yeah, that happened with me too. The first time I watched it, I was like, oh, this was so good, I have to just watch this again. So after the credits were done, back to the beginning it
was
goes.
still good the second time.
I think you even get more out of some parts of it on the second
there's
watch.
definitely
Like,
some jokes.
there's some
and
details that you
that-
miss
Yeah.
that you pick up the second time through.
But yeah, I like that. Some nice jokes. I like where one of the Mortys throws himself into the trash pit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wishing
pit,
portal or whatever.
Yeah, I like the concept of the creepy Morty, which is
The creepy
basically
Mortys.
like a gentleman's club comprised of only Mortys.
Morty, for the record, is a 12-year-old kid, right?
Yeah.
The premise of the show is
12-ish.
basically like the characters from Back to the Future highly exaggerated.
Yeah. Basically.
I was also very excited to see the return of Evil Morty. Which,
That was
Oh, don't
nice.
spoil.
yeah, well,
Cat's out of the bag.
cat's out of the bag now. I guess, spoiler warning for 30 seconds ago.
For those of you that watched Rick and Morty and haven't gotten to this episode yet, which aired,
I feel like
6 months ago.
If you're,
It's on Hulu.
yeah, if you're a fan of the show at all, I'm sure you've seen this episode. And if you're not a fan, then like you probably are just highly confused and don't about this topic in general. So
I do think that this is the best like television episode that I've ever watched of any show.
yeah, it's
definitely the only one that
episode.
I've immediately rewatched after watching it. But I think that I think Rick and Morty overall has some pretty good episodes. I mean, it has some episodes that are certainly fall flat. It has some episodes that are really good. And I think this is just one of the best TV episodes, and certainly one of the best cartoon animated comedy episodes.
Yeah, it's definitely
The way they follow all 4 storylines, and they're all different in their own way, and they all go different places. It's really interesting. It's really cool.
Yeah. It's hard to fit that much content into 22 minutes, but they managed to do it only drawing 2 different types of characters.
Yeah, well, no Morty seems like a president. We'll just have to take a little bit off the top. I thought I was left-handed, Morty. Well, maybe you should use your left hand to eat more vegetables. Alright, well that's probably enough about the Ricklantis Mixup. So if we roll a 20 again, we'll be talking about Super Smash Bros.
Alright, spin the wheel.
Time to spin the wheel.
8
number
again.
8. We'll be talking about Shoney's. Alright.
What is Shoney's, Greg?
Well, we see in I believe the first episode of season 3 of Rick and Morty to keep the theme going. It opens.
It's nice that we hit these back to back.
It is nice that we hit them back to back, but season 3 starts in the fictional restaurant. Although it could be real, I have no idea.
It's real. They go to it.
Yeah, they do go to it, but it is it's a restaurant. It's like, I guess it's like a Perkins or like a Denny's or something.
It's like a family diner.
Yeah.
Shoney's.
So what about Shoney's?
I don't know. What would you order if you were at a Shoney's right now?
I'd imagine that Shoney's has a pretty nice like turkey club.
I was thinking I might go for the pancakes.
You never go wrong with the pancakes. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, pancakes are generally pretty nice.
They probably have a deal on pancakes.
Yeah, maybe there's like a breakfast meal where you get like some pancakes, some eggs, some toast. Maybe get a piece or 2 of sausage or bacon or something.
Like the Shoney equivalent of like a tremendous 12, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Shoney, they don't really get much insight into their menu, but it seems...
They have coffee at least. That did.
Yeah, they definitely have coffee, and you could end up staying indefinitely. Just like this pod. So there's parallels between the Shoney's and this podcast.
Yeah.
You just never know how long you're going to be there, or we're going to be here. Just never know. So...
You do never know.
Yeah, so I wasn't really paying attention to when we started this discussion on Shoney's, but I feel like
we've wrapped it up.
Yeah, I feel like it's winding down a little bit now. So, if we roll an 8 again, we'll be talking about the World Cup. Alright, time to spin the wheel. Ooh, 15. This is a nice topic. Where's Shoes Booze?
Where is
Shoes Booze?
It's an age-old question.
Yeah, the age-old question. So, for those who don't know, we know someone named Shoes Booze, and we're just wondering where he is.
Where is that guy?
It's a question we ask many times, and now we ask it for all you.
So I imagine he's like at home, like working on his webpage or something.
I think he's way more likely to be at home playing Moto, but
just motoing.
He could be drafting.
Doing some
he's
M19.
He's very likely to be at home right now, regardless. I suppose he could be at a store somewhere drafting it up.
Yeah, that seems unlikely though. Why would he go to a store and do a draft when he could be here, spinning the wheel?
That's true. He could be at a Taco Bell.
Could always. I guess anyone could always be at a Taco Bell. We are in fact recording this episode inside a Taco Bell as we speak. So.
Yeah.
not true.
No, we're in tower games again. It's a little bit busier this time. Turns out.
But we hope to one day record in a
Some
Taco
nice
Bell.
stuff going on.
Yeah, we should probably record one episode of Taco Bell at some point. Maybe we could get like the management involved. So
Yeah, get the higher ends. The CEO can be a guest on the cast.
Yeah.
but either way, I
You can
don't.
ask him what he orders at Taco Bell.
Yeah, but either way, I don't see Shoes Booze in this room, so we can rule that out.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Hang on, let me check under the table. Alright.
There's just some boxes under there. No Shoes Booze.
They're all too small for him to be
Yeah.
hiding inside
Yeah.
them, so...
Yeah, where's Shoes Booze?
Where is
I think the home is a good guess.
Yeah,
home guess
the
is a
home
good
was a good guess. Although maybe he's, I don't know, outer space. No.
It's a question for the ages.
Yeah.
It is a question.
You
You
can never be
know,
sure.
except there's a very high chance he's just at home playing Modo. So, but you never know for certain. It's like
Yeah, you always gotta ask because you don't know.
Shoes Booze is off the grid. Oh, right. So.
Yeah.
So I guess that's enough discussion about where Shoes Booze. So if we roll a 15 again, we will be talking about World War II. Alright, so time to spin the wheel. Number 10. Board games? Board games.
Board games.
So are you bored of board games at this point, or are you on board with board games? That is the question
You know what?
for this evening.
I'm on board with board games. There's been a huge surge in board game companies, board game production.
Yeah, I feel like board games have gotten a lot better in recent years in general.
Yeah, I'm also on board with board games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you guys played any
I'm on
interesting
board.
ones?
You know, there is one that I like, but I don't want to spoil our future topics necessarily at this
Okay.
moment.
Yeah, I get your drift.
I mean, I don't think the two have anything to do with each other, so...
Yeah, I guess I sort of like Codenames.
Codenames is nice.
Codenames is a pretty good one.
It's a fair amount of fun strategy in that one. But I'm not a board
It's
game
not really a
aficionado.
board.
So.
Like, there's not really a board. I guess there's kind of a board.
Yeah, I feel like any game that like comes in like a large cardboard box is
like-
sort of a board game, you know.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
If you want to, use a generous definition.
Like I feel like, would you say that Cards Against Humanity is a board game, or is that not a board? It's
I
just
would
a
not
card
consider that a
game.
board game, but...
Okay, so that'd be stretching the definition too far. That crosses the line in the sand.
I can see code names though. I mean, there's kind of like a little board with you lay out all the.
Yeah, it's definitely like
Yeah.
the small like 2-inch by 2-inch board that has the. There's definitely a board
Technically a board.
involved. Yeah.
It kind of like the term board game is kind of evolved into like tabletop games, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
So that kind of encompasses it.
Yeah.
Cards Against Humanity, you don't really play on a tabletop, right? You
Yeah.
kind of hold all your
More of a
cards.
card game, but really, what is a card but a tiny board? You know.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, that's how I define it.
I want to try playing Scythe. I've heard about that game.
That game is nice.
I saw Scott and Sam.
Yeah, I played it with them. It's real nice.
It seems like a lot of fun. Seems interesting, but I haven't gotten to try it yet. So.
Yeah.
So, any tips for Scythe newcomers?
Well, it's been a little while since I've played it, but I think so. Like each, you basically play as like different nations, and each nation has a special ability, and your goal is to like basically get territory and collect more resources. So I think having an ability that has high movement is pretty nice. So.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played the game yet, so I can't speak to it too much, but generally speaking, in my experience with games where you need to like move around a board, mobility is really important, and like
Yeah.
trying to either pick the characters that move better, or the shoe's always a good one in Monopoly.
Yeah. So we don't want our listener to get bored of board games, so we should probably spin the wheel again.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
But so if we roll a 10 again, we'll be talking about Portal.
Ooh.
Alright, time to spin the wheel. 14. All That Chazz. So I guess I could take this one.
Should we define what All That Chazz is?
We shall. So listen up, listener. All That Chazz is another idea for a podcast that we had. So for those who are unaware, we know this man who is named Chazz, and so our idea for a podcast was called All That Chazz. The concept is we get Chazz on the podcast. That's important. And Chazz is always the podcast guest. And then we switch out other people that show up, and they always interview Chazz about whatever topic they're familiar with. So if you got someone that was really into like science, he would be like, "Hey Chazz, you're a science aficionado. Tell the listeners about science, Chazz," and then like the discussion would go from there. You know.
Yeah, I love the concept of like having Barack Obama on the podcast and Barack like interviewing Chazz about foreign policy.
Yeah. And then like Chazz may not be familiar with all the topics, but that would be part of the fun.
No, that's the point.
But then we came up with the wheel podcast idea, which seemed way noodlier in my opinion. So
I mean, I think they're both very funny
good.
ideas for a podcast, but this one's definitely
so the All
didn't
That
require Chazz's involvement. I'm not sure how big he was on the All That Chazz podcast.
I think I did mention it to him at some point, but yeah. So the All That Chazz podcast is still available. So if someone else wants to get that going, maybe.
Yeah.
Find a Chazz near you.
Yeah, find a Chazz near you, and having a Chazz though is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's probably enough about All That Chazz. I think we covered all of the Chazz, or at least a good portion of Chazz.
We covered some of the Chazz.
Some of the Chazz. Maybe we should.
A great deal of Chazz.
Yeah, some of that Chazz. All right, so if we roll a 14 again, we will be talking about podcasts. There's some similarities there. All right, time to spin the wheel.
20 again.
Ooh, Super Smash Bros.
Nice.
It's a nice game.
So it's a party game that I've mostly played with friends. I don't really play it by myself, or I'm not very good at the game.
No, I don't think any of us are, unless you're secretly a master.
No, I'm not a master.
None of us are Super Smash Bros. Aficionados here.
It is really interesting though, because the professional scene doesn't play on like the new TVs. They play on CRT screens because they have a lower delay.
Yeah.
So you'll go to like a Smash party and you'll see everyone with these super old janky TVs playing Smash.
Yeah, I feel like that's the way it was meant to be.
I really like watching the competitions on Twitch.
Yeah, people
It's
are
a
so
lot of fun.
insane.
People are really good, and like it's not something I understand a lot about, but the commentators are always know how to get the crowd hyped up and whatever, and it's just like a cool experience.
So should we explain what Super Smash Bros. Is, or should we just not? Okay, well, we should
I
probably
feel like
not
the
do
people
that.
that would possibly be listening to this podcast have certainly heard of it.
I feel like just a general rule of thumb, no matter what the topic is, we should probably just assume that the audience... What's the singular of audience? I don't know, audience member?
Listener?
The listener. Yeah, I feel like we should assume that the listener is just aware of all of these topics ahead of time.
I assume.
Yeah, we could do that.
Or they could just research after.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work for
the
listening to a
listener.
podcast, though.
I suppose. Especially if the podcast is 5 hours long.
Yeah.
As this one's going to be.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Who do you guys play in Smash? Who do you like to play?
I sort of liked Mr. Game & Watch. I don't know, he's kind of cool. He has his key and like weird items.
I like his move where he makes bacon.
I like making bacon. I mostly like saying making bacon while you're making the bacon.
I for sure do that. Making bacon.
Yeah.
I tend to like Mario, I think.
Mario's
I like
nice,
the
too.
little characters that like run around fast usually. And Mario's like, you know, he's got decent speed. I like Pikachu's fun. I like running
Pikachu,
around.
got
Like
the
the fox.
Yeah.
Star Fox, right?
I always play as Ness or Lucas. They're pretty sweet. I like that their third jump is having to hit yourself with your own attack. That's always pretty nice.
Yeah, it's hard. I haven't really gotten good enough to actually pull that one off all the time.
Sometimes you don't.
Sometimes you don't. Keep going, you fall.
Yeah, sometimes you just miss. Yeah,
It's like the real test.
So that's probably about 3 minutes on Super Smash Bros. So if we roll a 20 again, we'll be talking about Incredibles.
Alright.
Spin it up.
One.
Oh no!
The 5-hour podcast is not to be.
Yeah, so we definitely had some topics that we didn't get to cover this time, unfortunately. So stay tuned, listener.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Any closing remarks, Arthur?
No.
Dan?
Yeah, next time around.
Next time around. Alright. Alright, welcome to the newest episode of Wheelcast. Hopefully the first episode. I guess technically the second episode. See if everything's going okay. Hello. Everyone say something, I guess.
Hello.
Hello.
Everyone say something, I guess.
Are you ready to start the podcast?
Yeah.
Should we have What Would Shoes Booze Do on the podcast again?
Yes, we pretty much covered it. I figured we'd be doing another Shoes Biz one. We should do like Scuzz Biz or something. Yeah. We could add Scuzz Biz down.
We could do Where's Shoes Booze?
Oh, I like Where's Shoes Booze.